Welcome to The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. I am an entrepreneur who created my company, National Business Capital, from literally $0 out of my spare bedroom to over $2 billion in business loans secured for entrepreneurs nationwide. Since 2007, I have seen just about every type of business. I provide money and help entrepreneurs access capital to scale fast, but I also know that it's possible for you as you scale to replace yourself, to build systems, processes, and great teams of people that can live on without you so you can actually enjoy your life and your company can still grow. I will not only tell you the peaks and valleys of my story, but I will also bring on world-class entrepreneurs to tell their stories and share their lessons on their growth journeys. Welcome to The Growth Show. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Growth Show. Excited for our amazing guest today. You know me, I'm all about growing, pushing yourself, beyond what your limiting beliefs are. And that's exactly what our guest does today. So I'm really excited to have him come on and have a really cool discussion. It's a great time of the year. It's a new year, and it's a perfect time for you to be pushing beyond your limits and getting yourself to the next level. I want to welcome Chris Ruden. He's an amputee, type 1 diabetic, record-holding powerlifter, motivational keynote speaker, author, and adaptive model for Tommy Hilfiger, Nike, and Zappos. He was also featured on The Rock's hit show, The Titan Games, with The Rock. And Chris learned to turn his obstacles into opportunities, now using his badass bionic arm, diabetes technology, and message of creating your world without limits to impact people around the world. That's amazing. Thanks for being on the show, Chris. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I love your story. I've watched some of your videos. I saw a quick, clip of you, on the Titan Game show, and just got a lot of respect. And you have a real disability with your arm, but I think a lot of people have disabilities and they don't realize it, and their disabilities are actually their mind. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair to say, with like physical or invisible disabilities, that's a very real thing. But a lot of people do technically disable themselves from doing things that they're very capable of. And there's a very big difference between I can't and I won't. And I think a lot of people confuse the two. They're like, I just can't make it through. I just can't do this. I just can't be more organized. I just can't sell more. I just can't. And they're treating it as they are literally disabled, not able to do these things that they can. They just either don't want to or haven't found the way to do it. So part of what I really talk about, whether it's on stages or to people, is language and why language matters, because it really does shape your thoughts, beliefs, and your actions. If your language is fundamentally flawed, based in a lie or a mistruth, of course you're going to act the way you speak, whether that's to other people or yourself.
Yeah, and I always say, and I learned this from a lot of the Tony Robbins stuff I've done. It's 80% mindset, 20% strategy, and that really held true for me when I started my business. It was in 2007, and I went right into the 2008, 2009 financial crash, and my business is lending to businesses, everything financial completely deteriorated. And it really would have been, and I had my house on the line, credit cards, investment properties, all these things were underwater. It really would have been easy and understandable to like throw in the towel, walk away. And I powered through it. And the only thing that got me through it was like staying positive, my mindset, and not letting like the world around me that was really just falling apart limit my capabilities and hold me back. And I powered through that. And I went on to really grow, an amazing business and fund over $2.5 billion to small businesses across the country. But if I didn't get control of my mindset and my emotions, I never would have been able to do it. And then I feel like, fast forward, COVID happened, lending stopped, everything was free money. And I kind of took a page out of my own playbook from back then, and it was all mindset that helped me power through it in my company. But there's a lot of people have gone through, I mean, a lot of uncertainty. COVID wiped away a lot of momentum in companies. People were sitting on the sideline, paused. Thank God that there was, free money that helped, backstop a lot of these businesses. But there's still been, even as we've come back, and even this year, endless amounts of uncertainty, war. Some companies going out of business. Some companies do amazing. Every time you turn on the radio, it talks about recession. It's one day it's a soft landing, one day it's going to be a recession. So it's like we're just inundated with all this stuff that could really shape your mindset. And I'm just curious, like your thoughts about that, and and how you help people get through all that noise today, because it's endless noise.
So, I was born with a disability, and I hid my disability for almost 20 years, up until 5 years ago. I hid
Wow.
my hand in a glove and an arm. Like, if you're watching, you see I have like a super cool prosthetic arm now, and it's super badass. But
That
I
thing
didn't get
does
that.
look badass.
It's super sick. But I didn't get that until 5 years ago. Before, I hid my hand in a pocket in a glove. And when I say that, it was to the point where I almost got arrested at 14 by, I thought it was the Secret Service. It was at Washington, D.C. Monument. They told me to take my hand out of my pocket, and I refused. They took me in the back room and they forced me to take my hand out of my pocket. I'm sure they were expecting some sort of AK-47, but all they saw was a, a disfigured hand on a broken little kid, And I hid my hand up until I was 27 years old.
Wow.
27 years old. And for so long, I was like, I wish I could just have a normal life. I wish I could just be normal. I wish things could go back to normal. And how many times do we catch ourselves saying stuff like that? Like, I just wish things would go back to normal. COVID happened, the 2008 collapse, like so many things. I just wish things would go back to normal. I'm sure you've heard that, right?
I talk about it. I think it's what holds people back, because things change so fast and everyone gets stuck. And I wish it was that way, but now it's a new way. It's not that way anymore.
And the funny thing about that is pandemics have been normal. Collapses have been normal. Sickness has been normal. Death has been normal. Disability has been normal. Look throughout history, from
Wow.
the Spanish flu to this. In
It just
1930s or whatever, Spanish flu,
all
if you
repeats
look at
itself.
some of the writing around then, people were saying, the government is trying to take away our control by giving us masks. Literally the same stuff we're saying over and over and over now has been said for decades and centuries. We've had collapses and we've had all of these things over and over and over, which just shows us that this is normal. Struggle is normal. Success is normal. Failure is normal. All of this is normal. So we can't go back to what used to be, because what you really mean is, I wish things were the way they were when they benefited me the most.
That's
That's what you
so
really
true.
mean.
That's
What
it, when
you
it was easy.
Yeah, when it was easy, when things were good, of course, that's human. I'm not flawing you for thinking that, but language matters. Back to my original point. When you lie to yourself and you say, I wish things were normal, no, you don't, because they're normal right now. You're
Mhm.
struggling with your business, that's normal. You're succeeding, that's normal. You put in the work. You're not succeeding, you either haven't put in the work, or you need to adapt and shift or change course. All of these things are normal. And when you stop trying to isolate yourself by saying it's not normal, I'm not doing good, then you can be honest with yourself and saying, what can I do with where I'm at to make this a little bit better? I am a speaker by trade. That's what I do for a living now. And I get to inspire people, but more so I get to teach people messages and solution-based frameworks around overcoming adversity and change management. What I really get to help people do is find the real problem, not the topical problem, the real problem. What's been stopping you, or what is causing you to feel stuck? That's what I focus on. For me, it was never the disability. I was never afraid of my disability. I was afraid of what I thought people might think of me. But even that wasn't the truth. What I was truly afraid of was taking what people might have thought of me and thinking it myself. What I was
Wow.
truly afraid of was my own image and perspective of myself. That's what I was afraid of. And when I got over that feeling, and I was like, listen, I am in control of my feelings, my emotions. Feelings are not facts. And sometimes we think feelings are facts. So we're like in this catastrophe. We're catastrophizing things so badly, like, oh my God, this production month was so bad. I'm not going to be successful. I'm going to go out of business. I'm going to have nothing. I'm not going to be able to support my family. We become incredible storytellers in times of disaster. And
Oh
that's what
yeah.
it is. I have a quote hanging up in my office, and it says, "We suffer more in imagination than we do our reality." It's by Seneca, a Stoic philosopher. And it's huge because there's what is and the story we tell ourselves about what is. And more often than not, the story is much worse than what the situation is.
Yeah, and that story you tell yourself is a direct reflection on your quality of life,
Hmm.
which is really interesting.
And your quality of thought, your quality
Yes.
of language, and your quality of action. And all of them are controllable. Now, you couldn't control the market in 2008 or COVID, but you
Nope.
could control your reaction. And that's why I always talk about, same thing with my disability. Yes, I've broken records, been on TV and magazines. It's really cool. But the biggest win for me was being able to go into Walmart and not hide my disability. Not even Target, literally Walmart, of all places. So I'm not talking high quality
Now that's
standards here.
serious.
That's serious. But what I did was I took a responsibility. And we talk about that word a lot, but I talk about it a little bit differently. A response ability. Like, my ability to respond to things is the one thing that's always in my control. It's not easy, but it is in my control. If you're a person who distances yourself from things that aren't easy, life is gonna suck. And that's just the reality of what it is, because it's not easy living with a disability. It's not easy having a business in 2008. It's not easy having a business during COVID. But easy isn't the right question or the right focus. It's not how do you keep the motivation, it's how do you develop the discipline to do the shit you need to do even when you don't feel like doing it.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate everything and love everything you're saying. What I'm really curious about is like, when did that shift happen? Like, what happened? Because there had to be, right? You said all the up to 27, and now, so are you 33 years old now?
I'm 33. Yep.
Right, so 5 years. So like, there's been major in 5 years. Like, it seems like your whole world changed, and it's amazing. Like, what can happen in 5 years if you're focused in the right areas, right, and taking action. What changed for you?
Man, I stopped living as a shell of a person based on habits that I used to do. So many of us, including myself, I was a prisoner to my past habits. It's just what I've always done.
Did something happen though? Like, was there
I
a
think
life
there were a
event?
few
Like,
moments. Now, I do talk about this. I don't believe there's the Disneyfication of moments where there's this one Disney magical moment where
yeah,
everything magically turns. There's like, I think there's a book called The Power of Moments or something like that. And it
okay,
talks about little moments that create compound effects over time of change. And I had a few of those. So the one that really kind of rocked my world was when I was in college. I was studying exercise science because, to be honest, I'm stubborn and competitive. And I was like, I have a disability. I want to do bodybuilding. And how, when I have a disability? You're judged on your body, and I have a deformed body. That's, to me, the ultimate pettiness and stubbornness is like, I'm going to find a way to do it. I didn't know what that meant, but I started training people just because I wanted to help people. I'm a big believer in you teach best what you need to learn most. So in me teaching other people, it's holding myself accountable to be the best leader possible. A mom came up to me and she was like, "Hey, listen, I see you training at the gym and it's super inspiring, but I have a son. He's 11 years old. He has cerebral palsy. He can barely walk, he can barely talk, but I would love for you to talk with him." And I'm not a magician or a guru, but I was like, I would be glad to like meet this kid. And I fell in love with him, man. He was so amazing. Like, he could barely walk or talk, but I helped him exercise, and I would grab around his legs and his braces and help him walk around the cones, and he would fall. But unlike an adult, like when he fell, he laughed and got back up. When we fall, we cry and post about it and we hate life.
yeah, yeah.
He loved soccer, and I would help him like try and kick a ball in the goal, and he would miss 9 times out of 10, but celebrated like he hit it every time. Every time.
Wow.
One day he came home from school and he was like, "Hey man, Chris, these kids were making fun of me for the way I walk." And I was like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll kill him, like I'll drop kick him in the throat." Like, and before I could finish my like death threat, you know? He said, but it's okay. They don't define me. And just went back on to following and playing and doing his thing. And
Wow.
this kid learned something at 11 years old that took me 27 years to learn, which is no one can define what I am or what I do. No situation, no cerebral palsy, no condition, no COVID, no business collapse. Nothing can define what I choose to do now and moving forward ever.
Wow.
6 months after that, he ended up running on the beach for the first time, and his family still calls me to this day. So it wasn't
That's
because
awesome.
I was amazing at what I did. It's because I treated him like David and not patient 47, not like the shit that's happened to him. I treated him like the person he could be, not the person he has been. That
Yeah.
was a huge shift for me, man. Like I realized we have so much more to give, but there's so much noise, like you said earlier. You can't give into the noise and you have to brush it off. Because if a homeless person calls you a loser and a failure, you're like, bro, you're crazy, get out of here. But someone you care about calls you that, and suddenly it means something. It's never the label that's given, but it's the way we interpret it and if we accept that label or if we accept that circumstance. But I'm sorry, dude, having a disability or an autoimmune disease or a collapse, that's not an excuse for me to not seek my highest potential.
It's amazing. And it's amazing too, because you were helping him and he wound up
He
helping
helped
you.
me, man. He helped me, and like he has his own nonprofit now, and it's so crazy to see like stuff like that. But it really goes to show you, that was a tipping point for me to be like, all right, maybe there's more to life than what's happening to me. And I had a few of those moments, but really, I decided at 27, I was like, you know what? I got approved for a prosthetic arm. I told myself if I ever got approved for a prosthetic arm, which is near impossible, this arm is probably $120,000. You
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
access is insane, especially in the United States. So I got approved for it, and I said if I ever got one, I'd stop hiding my hand. So I made a video and posted it on YouTube. My girlfriend at the time edited the video for me, and that's the first time in 4 years she ever saw my hand.
Wow.
I posted that
Jeez.
video, and it was just for me. It was for me to feel good, like a coming out moment. I woke up and I had 7 million views on YouTube. That led to thousands and thousands of messages, media features, The Rock inviting me to be on a TV show. And it really started my life by jumping in the deep end. And that's what most of us need to do. We're toying with this toe in the water philosophy of I'll try it out. How many things do you try out? Like I'll give it a shot. No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Go all in.
You can't give it
Yeah.
a shot. And you either do or you don't. And it sounds like some hustle kill culture BS, but it's not, because effort is the one thing you can always control. You can always give your effort. And my rule is if you work with me as a speaker, as a coach, as an organization, if you give me 100%, I'll give you 100% back. If you give me 99%, I won't give you anything, because you can
Hmm.
always control effort. Even at your worst day, if you can only give 30 out of 30, I respect that so much more than the person who gives 80 out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah. And half of it is just, grit, working hard,
It's a
you know.
choice, man, and
Yeah.
it's a step-by-step choice. You're never gonna run 50 miles right now, but you can take one step repeatedly over time.
Yep. And build up to it.
That's it.
Yeah. And it all doesn't happen overnight. Like I don't know anyone that hasn't done big things that, it all just worked out, overnight. Like
Big things are small things over time. That's all they are.
yeah, it's it. It's just, and it compounds. So, what would you share, you know, someone that's stuck right now? I mean, my show, a lot of entrepreneurs watch. We work with entrepreneurs, all different businesses, and then, my team, right? In sales, like, people get stuck. Like, what would you share? What are some things that you share to help people kind of power through that and I guess get out of their own head?
There's a few things. So, we all have that elephant in the room that we've learned to put the carpet over and pretend like it's not there. If I ask you, what's the one thing you know you should be doing, but you're not doing enough of? You know. If I
Yeah.
ask you, what's the one thing you know you should be doing less of? You know. And
Yep.
instead of shying away from it, lean into it. You have to address that. Be honest with yourself. And I'm in the process of writing a new book that's being published later this year, and it's about changing course and getting unstuck. It's these same philosophies. And you have to be honest and identify the real issue, because you can't fix what you're not willing to face. Let's be honest. We'll never fix the things that we're avoiding talking about or recognizing or owning up to. You have to have a sense of radical honesty to fix anything. Imagine trying to fix your car in the dark. And that's even harder if you don't know how to fix a car, you know? So I find people who are stuck are encountering two main things: fear and a lack of clarity. Addressing the fear component, it's a storytelling and language thing. They're telling themselves about how it used to be, how they used to be, and how they failed in the past, so they're going to fail in the future. And they're becoming a real prisoner of their past actions or their past failures. What you used to do or who you used to be is not who you have to be moving forward. We get a chance every single day to fix our mistakes. We also get a chance every day to make mistakes, and that's okay, because the one thing we always have is the ability to mend and fix. If there's a problem that you can do something about, you don't have a problem at all. But if there's a problem you can't do something about, that's not your problem to fix. So at the end of the day, we do what we can with what we have. We have to address the fear and recognize that's our brain's attempt to keep us safe. Thank you, but we got to push past that animalistic lizard brain that keeps us safe. Let's push past that. Now let's get the clarity on what we need to do to fix the problem. If you address the true problem, then you could start to fix it. You use the tools you have available to you to fix it. Are you making enough sales calls? Maybe you need to do a little bit more. If it's not a volume thing, maybe you don't have the information you need to level up. I was at that point where I sought out mentorship. A lot of us are too proud or scared to ask for help. Let's be honest, call it what it is. Especially men in society today, we think help is vulnerability and vulnerability is weakness. And that's not true. That is not true at all. So you have to get the clarity, whether that's from yourself internally or reach out for help. From there, you have to live that new life. You have to be that lighthouse or that clarity moment for other people to keep you accountable. By leading other people, you'll always be a good leader yourself. And by holding yourself accountable to a standard so that other people see that, not only are you leading people, but you're creating other leaders. And to me, that's the epitome of good leadership.
It's good stuff. And I think a few things that you said resonated. One too is like, just because of the way things were, or an experience you had, doesn't mean that that's how it will be going forward.
Absolutely.
Like, even if you tried this one venture, now you're on a new venture. If that didn't work out, doesn't mean that this new thing or new way won't work out. And the other thing you said, which is a great one, and it's funny, and I asked my team this in our like recap meet last week, was, what can you do more of, but sometimes even more importantly, what can you do less of?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that. And
it's usually what you can do less of than what you can do more of.
You are kind of teasing out some stuff that's going to be in my new book. So anyone listening is going to get some information.
Nice. You got the sneak peek right here.
So I would say prior to the Industrial Revolution, the big issue we had was we were lacking information. We needed to add things. If you were sick, you needed to add medicine. If you were struggling to build something, you needed to add materials. We really needed more resources. After Industrial Revolution, with not only like just communication, society, but social media, the internet, have you ever Googled something and see how many results there are?
It's insane.
It's insane. It's like absolutely insane. We have done this this absolute shift in an excessive amount of information. So where we used to need more of, we now need less of. And it's like a statistical bell curve. Anything that starts off great, eventually over time becomes pretty bad. Social media was an amazing way to connect with people. Now people use it to just argue about politics and religion. It's like, guys, you're really annoying now.
Yeah.
Anything that starts off good can be used for bad. So now we have so much information that we get this paralysis analysis of like, I don't know what to do. There's so much information. We need to cut things out now. Now subtraction is your best addition. Pratt Pritchett, who studies, positivity and negativity, has done it for 30 years. He said, the benefit of removing negativity is more powerful than adding positivity.
Mm,
There
that's
is
a good
more
one.
benefit. There's
Wow.
more
Wow.
benefit to being less negative than there is to being more positive. And that's just positivity and negativity. Add that to your life. It's not that you need to learn more or do more. Very, very rarely do I meet people that need to learn much more. They usually
Mm.
need to do much less of the things that are stopping them.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth. I see it all around, and I see it with business owners, entrepreneurs that we work with. They're either involved in too many things or they're
Oh,
putting their
yeah.
time into
And
places
I'm
that aren't
guilty of that
supposed to
too.
go.
Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah,
definitely guilty
well,
of that.
and we
Yeah.
all are. Like I think
Yeah.
it's like you have to constantly like rebalance what's going on in your life because all of a sudden like all these things creep back in. You're like, well, how did I wind up doing this, or how did these meetings pop up, or why am I showing up to this? And it's like a new mantra I'm living by is like if it's not a hell yes, then
I love that. I love that. It's not a hell
it's
yes,
out.
then it's a definitely no. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then
And
it's a F no.
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. But we all get guilty of that. So just remember, anyone listening to this, it might sound like I have all of my stuff together. One, I speak for a living. And two, when I speak, I'm not speaking down to people or teaching them what I do best. I'm teaching them what I actively have to do. I actively have to manage this stuff. I say yes to way too much stuff, and I have to control that, like setting boundaries and making sure, like, hey, man, no, no, no. I have to start saying no to some of this stuff. I have to say no to just scrolling on Instagram or no to just doing things that aren't producing what I need to. Quality of life is very important to me, but to get to the quality of life that I aspire to, I also have to watch those little things. And I heard someone say, "Don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want right now." That was huge for me because, like,
Yeah,
what we want right now is comfort, safety, getting our mind off things, But sometimes we have to like dig in and be like, "Hey, don't retreat. Lean into this. Get this done. It'll pay off. It'll pay off."
yeah. No, it's great stuff, and I love getting rid of the negativity. I can't that's awesome. Getting rid of the negativity over bringing in more positivity. I mean, that holds true. What's the title of the new book? Can you share that?
Yeah. So the title of the new book is "The Art of Changing Course: 3 Steps to Get Unstuck."
Nice.
So
Okay.
the whole goal is recognizing that changing course is not necessarily a bad thing. I originally wanted to be a lawyer and then I switched to exercise science and now I'm a professional speaker. Like if I took the age old adages of never give up, always commit, committing to the wrong thing is going to do you a disservice.
Yeah.
Sometimes changing lanes is a great thing. Knowing when to quit the wrong things is an amazing skill to have. Knowing when to cut your losses, when to switch it up. If not, I would have been pursuing something that I thought I should do or told myself I should do. Those shoulds of life. And I might have been successful by society standards, but not by my own personal standards. So changing course is not just giving up, but it's recognizing that change is the one constant that we're always going to experience. How do you manage changing course? We saw that with COVID. Some companies died, some companies survived, and some companies thrived. What
Yep.
is the difference? Well, some people learned how to change course. They navigated it skillfully and they learned and they had a sense of humility and they leaned into these problems. And instead of saying, well, that's not how we do it, they said, how could we potentially do this better?
100%. And I talk about this. Change is happening so quickly, and I think for most people, we touched on this earlier. Things change, and they're so stuck on it was. I
Yeah.
wish it would go back to this way. And you made up a really good point. It's you wish it was easy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I think and now things change, and now you have to do things differently. Maybe you have to learn something new. Maybe you have to retrain your team. Maybe you have to, you know, create a whole new, division or process in your business, or whatever it might be. Um, I, you know, I know that for myself in my business, and I've seen that with other entrepreneurs. The ones that can change quick, and I think it's not even. I don't. I wonder if like the skill is more. Um, your mind getting caught up with reality and what's happening quick enough. Like I think most people's like mind just can't move that fast. That like, holy shit, this really just did happen. This our whole course of business or my whole life's going to change. And I just think most people can't, like, their mind can't keep up with that. And by the time it does, they've fallen behind so far. And I see that with a lot of companies that just take so long to change. And I think it's like having a grip on reality that like fast enough. I mean, most people just don't want to believe that this is happening and this is.
That's it. That's it. It's the commitment to their prior belief. So there's a lot of research on change, why it happens, and how it happens effectively. I did sales for a long time in the fitness space, and when I started speaking on change, I realized, wait, sales is literally just change management. I'm managing people from one state to another. I'm literally managing the change of this sale. I'm managing the change of this state, this transitory state. And I was like, wait, maybe it's more than just sales. Life is literally transitory state to state. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes ice stays ice, and sometimes ice melts. And that's okay. But by pretending that ice can't melt, you're really screwing yourself, and you become a reactive business owner and a reactive person. You are just waiting for things to happen to initiate a thought, then initiate a change, and then you're behind, like you said, because
Yeah.
they didn't have the mindset or the system, the organizational change components of managing something we know is likely to happen in life, as we've seen time and time again in history. So it's not just that people don't react quick enough, because urgency is a huge component of successful and sustainable change, but it's also people want to protect their egos. Because when you tell a company or a CEO or an owner of something, I've been there myself, when you tell them that the way they used to do it or the way they're currently doing it needs to change, some people take that as a hit on their ego. And
Yep.
some people would rather protect their ego and go down with the ship than right the ship and just say, what I used to do isn't enough. It's not working anymore.
Yep. And it's time to make a change.
I'm sorry, but my ego will die before I hurt someone else in my company, in other organizations. I will not sacrifice the people that I value or who value me just to protect a thought that once was true.
100%. And I don't care if you started here yesterday, you've been here for 10 years. If you've got a great idea and it makes sense, I'm all ears, all about it, even if your idea out trumps my idea.
Or if
Like,
it's different and it's so out of left
yeah,
field,
if you've got a better one, bring it. Like,
great,
knock
because
my idea out of the box. I want the best idea. I don't care.
thank
Like,
you. That's what it's about. And it's hard though, because a lot of us are searching for that societal status or that organizational status. We don't want to be seen as less than, but again, we're not afraid of being seen as less than. Let's get to the root of the issue. Like I said earlier, the root of the issue is you don't want to see yourself as less than. And you're afraid that by admitting what you're doing isn't working, you think you're going to see yourself as less than. Don't look at yourself as less than for adjusting for the longer mission. The process can and will change. The mission won't.
yeah,
Stay committed to the mission, not the process. And that's why companies get in trouble. Blockbuster, Toys R Us, Sears, these companies were committed to their process, not their mission.
yeah,
That happened. That is why people failed. And it's so funny that we have proof over and over and over again. People who sold horses and they saw cars start to come to fruition and they're like, no way, it'll never take off. Cars come out. It's amazing. The newspapers like, internet's stupid, it'll never take off. Internet comes out. We've seen it over and over and over again. And we have so much proof that it'll continue to happen, yet our egos stop us from saying, won't happen to me.
yeah,
Somehow we use things like the sunk cost fallacy. I've put in too much effort and time into this, so I can't change.
yeah,
Or this commitment bias of, it's just what I do. Trust me, it'll work out eventually. We have to let go of those fallacy, the thinking models that limit us from operating outside of what we know. Because we have the known knowns, the things we know. We have the known unknowns, the things we don't know. But what really screws people over is the unknown unknowns. and we don't prepare for those because we pretend like it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why, COVID,
COVID, that was a known unknown, and we still pretended like it couldn't happen to us. We act like we're impervious to pandemics when they've happened in history over and over and over again. We just think it won't happen to us. It's so crazy. But why does everyone have a spare tire on their car? Because they know it's a possibility. If we operated with that spare tire mentality, what is your spare tire for change? Do you have a spare tire for change? Or are you just raw dogging it and hoping that it's not going to happen to you? You know, when you put it that way, people are like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We see change as a negative word. So I want to share one thing that I do in some of my change management workshops. I have everyone partner up with one person, and I'll tell them you have to change 3 things about yourself, and the other person has to spot what it is when they turn back around. So people will take off their glasses, they'll unbutton a button, they'll take off a shoe. I even took off my hand for one of them, and people are like, oh, it's hilarious, And I do this whole process. People are loving it. They're getting ridiculous. Half the people have less clothes on. I'm like, guys, this is going to be an HR issue if we do any more. And then I ask, by a show of hands, who here added anything? No one ever raises their hand.
That's wild. Yeah, it's all
Because
about
we
taking
think
away.
of change as a negative thing.
As taking away.
Yet when I ask, okay, what do you think about the word improvement? Everyone's down. Everyone loves it. What about innovation? What happens if change is actually the same word
Improvement
for
and innovation.
innovation? What happens if we
Really?
see change as a way to improve or as a way to
Yeah.
innovate instead of as a way to take away? Perspective shift, man. And people are like, oh, it's more than mindset. Of course it is, but mindset initiates the proper action, because great action in the wrong direction is a waste of time.
That's a great one. That's awesome. That's great. I might have to run
Steve,
that.
it's a
Yeah, I
great
might have to run
activity
that
for
one
you.
with the team. Yeah, it's a
Absolutely
great one.
great activity. And that's why, I love, keynotes are my main thing when I do national sales meetings. But when I get to do my in-depth workshops around change or overcoming adversity, man, I love seeing those intimate settings of people just thrive, because it's one thing to give someone an idea. It's another when you facilitate it and they come up with themselves. And when I walk away from an event or an organization knowing their culture and their communication has improved just by implementing the right ideas, I truly believe every business owner already has that $1 million or 8-figure, 9-figure idea or communication process in their head. They just haven't unlocked it yet. And that's what I help people do, is get that level of communication out to their team so that their organization can soar and not be held back by this glass ceiling of ego and limitation in language and processes.
That's great stuff. I love it. I love everything you said. I am on the same page. Love everything you're doing. It's great stuff. And proud that you had that moment 5 years ago, and you're doing what you're doing because you're changing the world
I appreciate it,
and
man.
and making it a better place. And I'm sure anyone who hears you or that you speak with that comes, to one of your speaking engagements, or you're going to their company, I'm sure they walk away, feeling improved. So that's great. How do folks find out about you and learn more about you, Chris?
So my website is just my name, chrisruden.com. I'm really active on LinkedIn right now. I'm giving away tons of free information for whether it's business owners or people who want to incorporate speaking or even become speakers. I give away so much free information. It's ridiculous on there. I have 180,000 followers across all platforms, though. So everything from YouTube,
Nice.
Instagram, it's all just my name, and it's not bots or people working for me. I actually respond. So if you ever
Very
need
cool.
anything, feel free to reach out. Anyone listening.
Very cool. And when's the new book come out?
New book comes out in September. I'm super excited for that. I have my current book, which is The Upper Hand. That's on Amazon, and that's more self-communication and overcoming adversity strategies. But this one is all going to be about change and getting unstuck, both for individuals and organizations. So I'm really excited for that project. It's been a heavy take, and it's exciting, man. It's different. It's a change, but it's a change I very much welcome.
That's exciting stuff. I can't wait to check out the new book. Excited to read it. Also excited to share it with my team. And as we wrap up, we always end with what is one what's one growth tip that you would leave to any of the viewers and fellow entrepreneurs watching the show?
I would say be honest with yourself in what you need more of, and be honest with yourself in what you need less of. What is one thing you could add to your life right now that would make it drastically better if you did it every day a year from now? And what is one thing that you could take away from your life every single day that a year from now, your life would be drastically better? If you do those things every day, every other day, every week, I don't care, drastic difference in your life. Your new life is one decision away today. That's what it comes down to.
Good stuff. Or maybe take away 2 or 3 things.
One big one with bullet points and
yeah, sub points. That's great. Good stuff, man. Really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for your time, Chris, and love everything that you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks for having me, man. And thank you for doing this. People need this. So you're helping so many more people than you could even imagine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone watching. And don't forget to keep growing. Take care.